What is this place?
Well, damn, you made it to the spot. This is your safe and encouraging place where we are getting down with our healing journey. So if you come from trauma, if you come from domestic violence, if you come from sexual assault and you're listening, that means you are a survivor. And together we get to grow. This is where we ask real questions like, why does this journey feel so damn endless? And more importantly, how do we begin to actually heal? This spot is also for the fellas who are tired of all the toxic BS that is out there and who are ready to find out what the hell real masculinity looks like. And yes, we will also address the most important question on everybody's mind.
Dude, what's that on your face?
So please join me, David Torres, on this path where we stop blaming, where we start healing, and where we start getting answers. This is Walk With Me. Spoiler alert, it's a birthmark. It's just a damn birthmark. Hey there, welcome back to Walk With Me. If you've been here before, I'm glad you're back. And if you're new here, this is a space where we have real conversations about healing, growth, the things most people don't want to talk about, but probably should. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. As we get in today, how was your week? How are you feeling this week? Highs and lows. Let's talk culture. Let's talk sports. For those of you who are new here, I'm in Colorado, and the Nuggets have broken our heart. We lost in Game 6 in Minnesota, so all we have now are the Avs. And that's all I'm going to say about sports for now. So outside of that, the world continues to crumble around us, and we continue to get better and find different ways to smile and have a good time. Had a great week with the family, and I am looking forward to the new week, the new possibilities. So let me know how you did this week, how you fared with last week's challenge. And I hope and believe your next week can be better. We just keep moving forward. Today's episode is one that a lot of us have experienced, and one that we don't talk about often, but one that has more recently come up in the news and a lot of things that I'm seeing on social media. We are talking about reactive abuse. What is reactive abuse? I'm hoping by the end of this episode, you will understand what it actually is, why it happens, and how to separate who you are from how you reacted. Because this one gets misunderstood a lot. Before we get into it, let's talk cultural event and how this kind of ties in. Let's talk about something that has recently surfaced. I think it's been several weeks, maybe a month, but there's a situation with somebody, and her name is Taylor Frankie Paul. If you haven't seen it or don't know who this is, she is a reality TV personality. She's an influencer. She's part of Mom Talk on TikTok. She was recently seen on camera attacking her ex-boyfriend with a chair. And I saw it. I'm not going to lie to you. Her toddler was there during the incident. And of course, like I said, I saw it because it was caught on camera, my friends. I want to be clear here because there's a lot of opinions about this. Have your opinion. I won't give mine. I'm going to give what we're going to talk about here and how this ties into what we're talking about. We're not here to diagnose someone, okay? We don't know every detail. I hate to tell you. But what we can talk about today is how people responded. Because the internet did what it always does, right? It found a moment and it turned it into a label. Shit I heard was like, see, she's abusive. Okay, and maybe there were actions that weren't okay. Let's be clear. Harm is harm, no matter what. But what gets missed in context, Was there escalation? Was there emotional pressure? Was there a pattern leading up to that moment? We have to ask ourselves these things. Regardless, it prompted me to realize that reactive abuse is something we should discuss, because reactive abuse lives in the gray area. The gray area, if you don't know, is that area in life that exists in everything that not everyone cares to know about, cares to think about, cares to learn about. Yes, many times social media or the public will make it black and white. That's what people feel most comfortable in, because then we can just choose a side. Oh, we love choosing sides. Choosing sides, my friends, is good for sports. You know, it's really good for competition. It's not good for life. What we don't understand, or simply refuse to understand, is that things in life are rarely, if ever, black and white. To really understand that, guys, you can't be a lazy thinker or an unempathetic person. You can't. Not at all. You actually must be someone who understands that there are situations that we may not understand fully or may not have ever experienced, therefore should not be quick to judge upon. Because when a situation arises, when someone is pushed over and over again, and they react, and then suddenly they become the only one that's held accountable, we should consider the context simply before we decide to judge or make our opinion on it. I saw many reactions. Taylor is abusive too. Her ex-boyfriend was asking for it. Her ex-boyfriend instigated it. And I actually did see some people discuss reactive abuse. It's easy to assume versus understanding what may have happened on both sides. Let's be honest just for a second, and then we can lie again. No, let's be honest here. The internet loves the clean villain, right? It hates complexity because sometimes what looks like the problem is actually a response to a problem. And that is why I chose a subject that we're going to discuss today. If you've ever reacted in a moment and immediately thought, that's not who I am, like you saw yourself and didn't recognize that person, what if that moment doesn't define you, but explains something deeper? Let's define this clearly, because I don't want it to be confusing. Reactive abuse is someone who is being abused emotionally, mentally, physically, all of the above, and then they get pushed to a breaking point. Many of us have that point reached. And then they reach that breaking point and simply react. That reaction might look like yelling, hitting back, saying something harsh, losing control, throwing a chair at somebody while your toddler is sitting there. Examples. And then something dangerous happens. That reaction becomes the focal point. It becomes the focus. Instead of asking what led to that moment, many of us, or the narrative, becomes, see, you're the fucking problem too. See how easy that was? I didn't even have to think about that. I just had to react and judge quick. So easy. I wish sometimes I wasn't an empathetic person, someone who critically thought outside of the box. It would be so easy to just see a situation and judge the fuck out of it. Life would be easy as hell, incredibly unhappy, but easy. Here's the shift. This is where the damage happens. This isn't random. This is your nervous system. Okay? When you are constantly controlled, manipulated, belittled, pushed, your body stays in survival mode. Fight, flight, freeze, eventually the fight response comes out. An analogy that works here is if you back a dog up into a corner, it's going to bite you, right? Many of you would take the dog's side in this situation, right? Because why else would that dog bite you? You backed him up into a corner, but we didn't see all that. We didn't see the whole thing. Why? Well, because that's not a personality change. That's a survival response. But survival doesn't always look clean. And even more disturbing, it can be used against you. We're going to get into that. I want to make it clear before we move on. The whole thing with Taylor, I don't know enough about to know what it was. I can almost presume that there was a level of reactive abuse there. Based off of some of the earlier shows. So, fuck, now I have to make a confession. Yes, I have watched episodes of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Shut up. This is a good opportunity for you not to just judge. We're moving on. But when we talk about how it can be used against you, that's where the focus comes in. Let's talk about how that shows up. You ever see a clip and immediately think, wow, that person is out of control? You've seen them. If you have ever been on social media, you've seen clips like that. Maybe they are. Maybe that's the truth. But what are you not seeing? Because I can tell you what you're not seeing is what led up to it. The situation around it. How long has it been building? How long has that situation continuously happened for that person? What have they been holding in and for how long? Because reactive abuse lives right there in that space. When someone is pushed and pushed and pushed until, blam, until they break. And that moment that they break, that becomes the story. That's what everyone sees. I can imagine that you don't have to be a survivor of abuse to really understand this. I feel confident that many people, survivors and people who haven't dealt with abuse or trauma, have experienced this breaking point. And they were automatically deemed the villain, the bad guy, the one who's out of control. How did that moment make you feel? Now consider someone who has been a victim this entire time, never believed or helped or viewed as someone who needed help, then suddenly, with one action, turns into the bad person. Imagine what that does to someone. Try to imagine that. Someone who thinks, no one ever saw what that person did to me or was doing to me or believed me when I told them. And my first act of retaliation or aggression has convinced them that it was me the entire time, that I was the problem. Just think about that for one fucking second and ask yourself how that would make you feel. And some of you are going to say, well, I have control over my emotions. I can handle a situation like that. Fantastic. Gold star. Truly. Because some people get broken down so much, they end up not having that option or that ability to do so. Good for you, but just because you did doesn't mean everyone else does. Let's run this back really quick. Someone is pushed, their nervous system stays activated, they hit a breaking point, and they react. And then the reaction becomes the entire narrative. If we don't understand context, we end up blaming survival instead of the harm that caused it. It is so easy to judge someone or a situation at face value when we have no fucking idea of what happened before or leading up to that event. We are obsessed with quick reactions, y'all. If you don't know, stop fucking assuming. When did assuming become so fucking cool? That's my rant. I apologize. Nothing irks me more than reacting quickly without knowing the whole story, and then acting so fucking confident about your opinion, whatever. And listen, I'm not innocent of reacting that way. There was a time in my life, I'm certain of it, that I did that. But we all have the ability to learn and the ability to be empathetic to things we don't know about. Okay? And hopefully throughout time, you learn that quick reaction doesn't have to be what you default to. Here is where all this gets dangerous when reactive abuse is misunderstood. Two things happen. One, survivors actually start believing the narrative. Maybe I'm just as bad as my abuser. No, that can't be what's happening, but that's exactly what does. The number two, which is, believe it or not, worse, is the person who is actually causing harm, the abuser, is allowed now to flip the narrative. This is something called DARVO, DARVO. It's an acronym for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. They switch sides. Here's what that looks like in real life. First, they deny what happened. That didn't happen. You're exaggerating. You're remembering it wrong. Then they attack you. You're too sensitive. You're the problem. You're always doing this. And then that part really messes with people. Psychologically, that shit fucks you up. They flip it. Now suddenly they are the victim, not the abuser. Boom. Hands are clean. We start all over. They're now allowed to say things like, I can't believe you're accusing me of this. You are hurting me, not vice versa. You're making me look like a bad person. Bitch, you are a bad person. I digress. And now you, the victim, the survivor, are sitting there thinking, wait, what just happened? It creates that confusion. It makes you question yourself. It makes you feel guilty. It makes you feel like maybe I am the one who did something wrong. Just like that. That's the point. It shifts the focus away from what actually happened, what actually preceded this whole thing, and puts all the attention back on them, the positive attention. So instead of them being held accountable for anything, you're now defending yourself. And if you don't recognize it, you can get stuck in that cycle for a very long time. Very long time. That DARVO acronym doesn't just protect the person causing harm, it makes the person being hurt question their own reality. Just like that, one action. And it happens more than people realize. Okay? Let's hold two truths at the same time. Your reaction may not have been okay. 100%. I'm not excusing the action. By no means am I excusing the action. But that's why these two truths can be held at the same time. The reaction was not good, and it does not define who. Because there's a difference between a pattern of abuse and a reaction within abuse, inside abuse. And understanding the difference, that's where healing can begin. So what do we actually do with this? We don't ignore it. We don't shame ourselves. We take accountability, and then we get curious. Healing looks like this: understanding your triggers, recognizing escalation patterns, learning how to regulate your response, and separating your identity from that one reaction or those reactions. And I want to slow this down for a second because this part matters a lot, especially if you're in a situation where you can't fully remove the abuser, the person causing this. Like an ex you still have to deal with because you share something real, like children. Okay? This isn't optional work. This becomes essential. Number one, have to understand your triggers. Let's start here. What do they say that gets you every time? And listen, if your first thought was fucking everything, I'm here for that. That's not a joke. That's information. That's legit. I hear that. That means your system is already on edge before the conversation even begins. So your first move isn't to win the interaction. It's to limit the interaction. Short responses, clear communications, no extra engagement, no tea, no catching up, none of that bullshit. It's hello, yep, bye. Because you're not trying to prove a point anymore. You're protecting your peace. Number 2, we said recognizing escalation patterns. Next, you must start seeing the pattern. Because these situations, they're predictable. They become predictable. There's a build, a tone shift, a comment, a trigger point. And once you see that happening in real time, you gain something very powerful, the ability not to feed it. Yes? Because escalation, it needs that energy. It needs to be matched. And when you stop supplying that energy, that dynamic begins to change. Okay? Third, regulating your response. Now, this is where the work really shows up, guys. Because recognizing the pattern is one thing, but choosing not to react to it, that's discipline. That can look like one-word responses. What did I say? Hello. Yep. Bye. Remember that? Not engaging emotionally. Changing the subject if you feel it. If you feel it, change the subject. How about those Avs? Right? How about those Yankees? Or how about those whatever? Doesn't have to be sports. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to my mind, but it did. Not because you don't have anything to say, but because you're choosing control over reaction. You're no longer participating in that cycle. Okay? The fourth one, separating your identity from your reaction. This one, while it might be the hardest, it is the most empowering and it is the most important, because when you react versus respond, it can feel like this is who I am now. This is who I am. This is what you've made me. I'm always going to be like this. But it's not. I promise you, you are not defined by your worst moment. There is a reason this person triggers you. Yes, there's history there. There is emotional buildup there. That shit is real. But it's not who you are. That is not your fucking identity. That's your nervous system responding to something it recognizes. And when you start to believe that, but really believe it, you stop letting those moments define you. And that, my friends, is when it empowers you to understand what needs to be done to ensure it does not happen again or less and less. And this work, not to control them, not to change them. You're not here to heal them, but to stop them from controlling the narrative through your reactions. And listen, this shit ain't easy. You're going to hear me say that every episode, no matter what we're talking about. It is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. You're not going to master this overnight. You're going to slip. You're going to react, which is why I said less and less. That doesn't mean you can't learn it. That doesn't mean you submit to that as being who you are. Because you can learn it, and that isn't who you are. And if you want your peace back, you've got to do this. You have to. Because one moment, one action, one reaction should not rewrite your entire story. I refuse. I refuse. Listen, you're not going to do this perfectly. You're going to react. You're going to get it wrong. You're going to fall back into old patterns. That doesn't mean you failed. You're learning something new. Give yourself grace. For the love of all that is holy. Growth isn't clean, y'all. It is necessary, and it's worth it. And I am obsessed with survivors growing. It's the only reason I'm here. Here's the challenge of the week. And my friends, if you're listening more as an ally, somebody who hasn't gone through this pertains to you because anyone can have a situation like this. I said that earlier. Challenge is, if you've had a moment where you reacted, pause. And instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Ask, what led me there? Not to excuse it. It's not what we're doing here. We're taking accountability, but we're trying to understand it. Yes, we are not here to find excuses for shit, my friends. We are here to grow, and we cannot grow until we understand it. Understanding it, taking accountability for it. Because if you don't understand it, you can't change it. We know this. Yes, if you skip this challenge, nothing changes. So don't skip it. And I'd love to hear your stories or your moment in this. So let me know. Let me know what happens and what you find out about yourself, what you understand about yourself. All right, this week our fashion tie-in is something else that's very real. If you've ever watched someone go through something and start showing up differently, this fashion tie-in is for you. There's someone who I fucking love. His name is Tan France. If you don't know who Tan France is, girl, boy, look him up. What are you doing with your life? I'm kidding. He was one of the Fab Five on Queer Eye, and he just appears to be this amazing human being. I've never met him. I'd love to meet him one day. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but he just seems to be this amazing human being. And what he does isn't just about styling people. He helps people who feel disconnected from themselves start to see themselves differently again, not by changing who they are. That isn't the goal here. What he does is help reconnect them with who they actually are, someone they felt was lost. And that's what we're talking about here. So consider that after moments like this of the reaction or reacting to something, after being pushed, after reacting, questioning yourself, you don't always feel like you anymore. You shrink. You pull back. You stop expressing yourself. But then something small starts to happen. Because you start learning to choose yourself again. What you wear, how you show up, how you carry yourself, not for anyone else. This is for you. You get to say, I still get to decide who I am. And in our culture, we've always taken pride in how we present ourselves. But here's the shift. There's always a shift. There's always a shift with this guy. We're not just representing where we come from. We're reflecting who we're becoming. And that is not just fashion. I like to call that identity repair. Yes? Listen, if this is something you've experienced before, you should know by now that you're not alone. You should also know that you're not broken. You were overwhelmed, you were pushed, and you reacted. Congratulations. You're a human fucking being. Now you get to understand it, though. Now you get to move differently in that world. Today we talked about what reactive abuse is, why it happens, how it gets misunderstood, and why context matters. Because this was never just about the reaction. This was about what led to it. And that moment does not define you or your future. What you do next, however, that does. And my loves, progress is the point. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the path. Hey y'all, thanks for walking with me today. If something in this episode resonated with you, you can find resources, support organizations, and additional information at walkwithmepod.com. Whether you're seeking help for yourself or someone you care about, those resources are there for you. You can also connect with me on social media. All of the links are in the show notes and on the website. I always welcome your reflections, questions, and stories. And with your permission, some may even help guide future episodes as this community continues to grow. If you believe in what we're building here, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It truly helps this message reach more people who may need it. And if someone came in mind while you were listening today, consider sharing this episode with them. Sometimes a single conversation can open the door to healing. Until next time, keep moving forward, one step at a time. Psst, this part is super important, my friends. I want to be very clear about something. I am not a licensed therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, or a medical professional. The content shared on Walk With Me is based on personal experience, research, education, and lived perspective, not professional or clinical advice. This podcast is intended for educational, reflective, and community-based conversation only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health care, medical treatment, legal advice, or crisis intervention. If you are in immediate danger, experiencing a crisis, or need professional support, please contact emergency services or a licensed mental health professional or a trusted support organization right away. Resources and hotlines are listed in the show notes and on walkwithmepod.com. Listening to or participating in this podcast does not establish my therapeutic, professional, or client relationship between you and I. My goal here is to open conversations, challenge harmful patterns, and offer insight and hope. But your safety, healing, and care deserve qualified, professional support when needed. Please take care of yourself